What's up, everybody? So real quick before we get into the video, nobody won the contest, so we're going to do the contest again. And how it works, if you're new to the channel, you got to pick 3 winners. You can pick 1 winner by decision. The other 2 have to be either knockout or submission, and you have to tell me what round. So method of victory, round, and you can pick 1 decision. So pretty easy, man. Not a whole lot of people participate and try to win. But what you could possibly win is one of these items. Got a Juliana Miller autographed UFC glove with certification with it. And then I have an autographed Donald Cerrone print. If I don't knock my mic over trying to do this. And I got an autographed Demetrius Johnson. Yeah, no, my camera is not that great, but then I have an autographed Holly Holm. So you get to pick one of those items if you win. And once again, 1 win by decision, 1 winner by decision. The other 2, what round and method of victory, knockout or submission. And what else? Yeah, man. So if any of y'all are new to betting or anything like that, never have any questions, man, you can definitely message me on Instagram or TikTok or whatever, and talk to me about it. If you don't understand like the unit system and stuff like that, you know, yeah, you could ask me and I'll fill you in on it. So enjoy the video, man. Thank y'all for watching. Please like and subscribe, man. It would help me out a lot. And you guys have a good one, man. Enjoy the video. Here to go over UFC 292 Sterling versus O'Malley. But real quick, I'm going to go over my betting results for the last card. Had a really good night, made a lot of money. As you can see here, Hadley started the night off of us, for us pretty bad. So lost a unit there, but then I did have a 3-unit play on Corey Sandhagen at -250, and then I had a 2-fight parlay with Sandhagen and Phillips, which is +139, and that was a 1-unit play. And I also had, I posted all of these at least 2 to 3 days before the fights. And I accidentally posted this prop parlay with my bets for UFC Vegas 78, which is this weekend. But I posted this a few days before the fights. Suarez Nadrad under 2.5 rounds, parlayed with Sandhagen, wins by decision. That was +300. And I just had a 1/4 unit on that. And then I had a play on Billy Quarantillo that I added 3 or 4 days before the fights. That was a 1-unit play at -179. And then I actually made this parlay after Jake Hadley lost because it was starting off the night bad. I was already pissed off because Hadley lost and he made a lot of dumb decisions in that fight, and so I made this 3-fight parlay of Billy Quarantillo, Kyler Phillips, and Corey Sandhagen, and I think I had half unit. I had like $600 on it, and it paid $1,741. So all around a very profitable night. One of the better nights I've had in a while. Had a lot more bets, though. Usually I don't even get into the props very much, but I did on that one. And so what I do, guys, is if you're not familiar with the channel, I go through and I give out my pick for each of the fights, and then at the end of the video, I give out all my bets for the card. And if you're not interested in watching my videos, you can see all my stuff on my Instagram and my TikTok. They're both highkick_fight picks. And I also have a Facebook group. It's High Kick Fight Picks on Facebook. It's easy to find. And please like and subscribe, man. It really helped me out a lot. And what else? No winner of the contest yet, so we'll be redoing that again. And yeah, man, there's only 10 fights on this card, man, which is kind of a letdown. And then we lost one of the better fights on this card. I just found out that we lost the Jeff Neal versus Ian Gary fight. And they added this Kurt Holobaugh versus Austin Hubbard, the finals for the Ultimate Fighter show, which is crazy because I guess I don't know I just watched the episode where Kurt holobaugh fought last night. So, um, yeah, jumping in pretty quick on this, but so I just saw that they added this, man, and I didn't have time to do all the stat research and stuff like that like I normally do. But I've been watching the show. I've known both of these guys, very familiar with their career, and yeah, I know everything about these guys. So let's get into the card, man. Kurt Holobaugh is 36 years old. He's 5'11" with a 73-inch reach. He is 19-7, and we don't have odds up for this yet. As far as I know, I couldn't find any. And Kurt Holobaugh, man, very underrated, man. He looked great in the fight against Jason Knight that just happened the other day. And he was really just straight down the middle, just laying that dude up with punches, man, and beating the shit out of him. Knight was trying to do a little bit back, but Kurt was clearly landing the cleaner shots, straight shots right down the middle, man. It was very impressive. And, I mean, that was the best he's looked, on the show. And if we take a look at his record, he's got 7 wins by knockout, 9 by submission. He's only been submitted one time, only been knocked out one time. And it's crazy that, he never did win a fight in the UFC, looking that good against, other UFC veterans. But then you look at the guys that he's fought, and, Thiago Moises, Shane Burgos, Ronnie Barcelos, that was back when Ronnie was really on a hot streak. And there's a no contest to Nate Bassett, but I don't remember. Oh, that was on Dana White's Contender Series. Sorry. It says he has 4. Oh, he had a shot way back in the day in 2013 in the UFC, and it was a unanimous decision loss to Steven Seiler. So, yeah, he never did get a win in the UFC, which is crazy considering how good he looked against Jason Knight. I was really impressed, man. I think he really does deserve this shot, back in the UFC. And he's taking on Austin Hubbard. He is 31 years old, 5'10" with a 71-inch reach. Hollowball's going to have a 2-inch reach advantage. Hubbard is 15-6. And let's take a look at some of the stats on him. So he's got 4 wins by knockout, 3 by submission, mostly decision wins. He was 3-4 in the UFC. And he's gone out and gotten a couple of decent wins, since being cut from the UFC. But it's kind of crazy that they cut him. He lost a fight to Vince Pichel, but before that he had won a fight against Dakota Bush, and he was just kind of like on a win-loss thing. I don't think he deserved to be cut, with only being on a 1-fight losing streak at that time. So it's kind of crazy that they cut him, and he's very impressive too, man. I think he might be the more well-rounded of the two of these guys. And as far as submissions and wrestling and stuff like that. But I did like the striking out of Holobaugh. I mean, it was very impressive. Jason Knight's a really tough guy, and for him to go out there and finish him like he did, I think he may have really turned a corner in his career, man. And I don't know what the lines are going to look like on this. I'm sure a lot of people are going to be going with Hubbard, but I actually like Holobaugh here, man. I like what I saw out of him. I think if Hubbard's going to get the win, he might want to look to use the grappling and get the takedowns and try to get a submission. But Holobaugh looked unstoppable, man, in that fight. So seems like he's really on the ball now and really turned a corner. And I'll take him to win. I'm going to take him to win by, let's see, has Hubbard ever been finished as far as knocked out? He's never been knocked out. He's been submitted twice. I'll take Holobaugh to win by decision. And next up, we got Andrea Lee taking on Natalia Silva. This is one of those cards, man, where it's there's a whole lot of favorites, on this card, man. I think the only dog that I was going to pick on this card was Jeff Neal against Ian Gary, and I wasn't super confident in that either. But I think that might have been the only dog on this card, unless Holobaugh winds up being a dog. A lot of big favorites on this card, and they're justifiably so, man. And just kind of try to find ways to make money out of it, Andrea Lee is 34 years old, 5'6", with a 69.5-inch reach. She is 13-7 and 5-5 in the UFC, and she's a plus 275 underdog. And I'm sure these lines have moved a lot, since I was doing my notes a few days ago, all the way up until yesterday. She's coming off a fight with Macy Barber that she arguably could have won. Her wrestling did look improved greatly in that fight. Three wins by knockout, five by submission on her record. She's been around quite a while now, man. She's had some good wins, some bad losses. She has a Muay Thai background. Pretty good jiu-jitsu, man. Fights well in the clinch, throws good uppercuts. She's going to be the bigger girl here for sure. She's going to have a 4.5-inch reach advantage. I don't think that's anything that Natalia Silva is not used to. Lee is very good with her body lock takedowns and her trips, which I think she could possibly have success with in this fight if she can pull them off. Natalia Silva's takedown defense has held up so far, though. Lee has fought the way tougher competition out of these two. This could definitely be a closer fight than the odds are suggesting. Lee looked pretty good in her last fight, taking on Macy Barber, who's on a tear right now. And, Lee scrambles back up to her feet very well when she does get taken down. I'm not saying that she's the more skilled fighter here, but she is a veteran, and, she knows how to capitalize on her opponent's mistakes if they do make them. And she's taking on Natalia Silva. She is 26 years old, 5'4" with a 65-inch reach. She is 15-5-1 and 3-0 in the UFC, and she's a -325 favorite, and she's looked amazing, man. And, her last two wins coming by way of knockout, not the best of competition, really, but very impressive nonetheless. She's looked unstoppable. I think her most impressive win was her debut fight over Jasmine Jadzavicius. Jasmine's gone on to do good things, so that is an impressive win in hindsight. 5 wins by knockout, 7 by submission on her record. She has very well-rounded, great takedown defense, dangerous on the feet, wide variety of strikes, good Muay Thai, throws lots of volume, great calf kicks, side kicks, and her left high kick is really fast, and throws good spin kicks. Pretty much everything you could think of as far as kicks go, honestly. She's going to have a major speed advantage in this fight, really nice combinations, really nice footwork. I can't say enough good things about her, man, and we're going to see how she's going to do against a little bit, higher level competition, more a hardened UFC veteran, if you will. I'm going to be picking Silva to get the win. The price sucks, and Andrea Lee is extremely tough, so I'm going to take Silva to win by. I don't think Lee's going to get knocked out in this fight, but I do think that Silva will get the win by submission. Maybe Silva will hurt her and land a good shot and then jump on a submission, and I'm going to say round 2. Next up, we got Marina Moroz taking on Karine Silva. Marina Moroz is 31 years old, 5'7" with a 67-inch reach. She's 11-4 and 6-4 in the UFC, and she's a plus 135 underdog. She has 1 win by knockout, 6 by submission. She has a boxing base, but she's primarily been known for her submissions, in her MMA career. She does have a win over Mayra Bueno Silva, which is really impressive. Silva's probably about to fight for a title. Moroz is a good grappler, very good at transitioning to the back. Fights very well in the clinch. She lost her last fight to Jennifer Maia, but there's no shame in that. Jennifer's been at the top of the division for a long time. I do like Moroz's boxing and the movement she uses. I like how she sets up the headshots off the body shots. Throws a lot of straight shots to the body, which is very effective, and more fighters should invest in going to the body. She actually coaches for the Olympic team in boxing and for Ukraine. So obviously she knows what she's doing with the hands. The only problem here is that really she's taken on, my new favorite female fighter in Karine Silva here, and Karine is on a tear right now, and looking forward to this, man. This is going to be Karine Silva's toughest opponents, yet. So Karine Silva is 29 years old, 5'5" with a 67-inch reach. They have the same reach. 16-4 and 2-0 in the UFC, and she's a -155 favorite. All of her wins have been by finish, 8 by knockout, 8 by submission. She's dangerous everywhere the fight goes. Her jiu-jitsu is perfect. The way she barely had to put any pressure on that leg in her last fight, just pop the knee out of the socket. It's pretty crazy and really impressive, man, that she won that way. And she's the bigger, stronger fighter here for sure. She has great chokes, darces, and guillotines. Great striking. I didn't realize this before, man, but these two have actually fought before, man, and Moroz actually did win by submission. But that was way back when Karine Silva was 5-1, a pretty long time ago, years ago. And it makes sense that that's why the line is really good on her right now, since Moroz won before. People are kind of kind of iffy about putting a big price on Silva or paying a big price, or there's money coming in on Moreau's. Um, she's improved a lot since back then. Nice Muay Thai, uses her jab very well. Throws a lot of front kicks up the middle. Her overhand right is very powerful. Maybe I'm biased, man, but because I'm a big Silva fan, but this will be no easy fight for her, no doubt about that. But I had to pick Silva here to get the win, and I had to jump on that line, man. And I believe it was a 2-unit play that I put on it. I'll have to check. Um, but I am picking her to win. I'm going to pick her to win by knockout. Moroza's never been submitted, and Silva's finished all of her opponents. So you got to go with a finish. So I'm going to say she wins by knockout. And most of her wins are in, maybe this one goes to the second round. Next up, we got Gregory Rodriguez taking on Dennis Talulin. Gregory Rodriguez is 31 years old, 6'3" with a 75-inch reach. He is 13-5 and 4-2 in the UFC, and he's a minus 355 favorite. And I'm a big fan of Rodriguez, man. I love his fighting style. I think he's a lot more skilled, on the ground and with the jiu-jitsu. He's really known for that, but he hasn't done any of that in the UFC. And I think it's been to his downfall, but I think I'm going to repeat myself in a minute when I'm talking about this. But he has 7 wins by knockout and 4 by submission. This guy's a very high-level jiu-jitsu guy. Like I said, all he's done in the UFC is knock people out, and I guess he's kind of fell in love with that, man. And, all of his fights are wars and exciting to watch. He's coming off an embarrassing loss, where he had a clear advantage, in the grappling and went out there and threw punches with a guy who was a knockout artist who was making his UFC debut. Gregory was a big favorite in that spot, and Gregory got knocked out. So that was crazy that he made that mistake. And so once again, this is the same situation here, kind of. Talulin has 0 ground game whatsoever. We saw that in the Park fight. We've seen that his only chance, really is to knock out, Rodriguez in this spot. Gregory hits very hard. He does get hit a lot. He's a big, strong guy. He should definitely win this fight. I honestly think he's better everywhere the fight goes, but, it would be, I would be happy to see him fight smart for once, rather than just go out there and give the guy the opportunity to knock him out, He's taking on Dennis Talulin. He is 35 years old, 6'1" with a 77-inch reach. He's 11-7 and 1-2 in the UFC, and he's a plus 280 underdog. And he has 9 wins by knockout, no wins by submission, like I said, and he has lost by submission 4 times. We saw in the Park fight that he really had no idea what he was doing once he was on his back. He was mounted and doing everything but what he should have been doing, to try and defend that position and try to get out of mount, out of being mounted. And he was just kind of putting his arm strap in the air, and he was trying to just sit up on his arms, and I just never seen anybody, at least in the UFC, do that. He's a tough striker. He's a wild brawler. He hits very hard. He's always pushing forward. The way that Gregory Rodriguez fights, he may give Talulin a chance. If he comes out and brawls. Talulin can definitely take a shot, man. I think he only wins if Rodriguez makes a dumb decision, and I'm taking Rodriguez to win. I'm taking a win by submission, because surely he's not going to make the same mistake twice in 2 fights in a row, He needs to go out there and use his ground game, put it out there, show it off, man. Next up, we got Chris Weidman taking on Brad Tavares. Chris Weidman is 39 years old, 6'2", with a 78-inch reach. He is 15-6 and 11-6 in the UFC, and he's a plus 230 underdog. And yeah, he's coming back off that nasty leg break loss to Uriah Hall, where he broke his leg on, throwing a leg kick. He hasn't fought in over 2 years. He's got skills. He's a former champion, 6 wins by knockout, 4 by submission. He does have 6 knockout losses, though, and he is 2-6 in his last 8 fights. So it's not looking good. He has a wrestling background. He's going to have a 4-inch reach advantage. I've noticed in his last few fights, he's kind of switched to like a karate-type stance on the feet. it's kind of late in the game for him to be making, changes like that, I would think, but that's just me. If he makes it work for him, he makes it work for him. But, um, he has, great takedowns, very good with the single legs, great takedown defense, good Darce and anaconda chokes. Um, he's going to focus on his wrestling, man, and that's what he did in his last, the last fight that he won. He really focused on his wrestling and really pushed a tough pace. He has great cardio, man. He's pretty good at keeping it up into the third round. If he can get Tavares down, and if he can have success with his wrestling, he could possibly win this fight. I would like to see him win this fight. Rooting for him. He's taking on Brad Tavares. He's 35 years old, 6'1" with a 74-inch reach. He is 19-8 and 14-8 in the UFC, and he's a minus 270 favorite. And he's coming off 2 knockout losses in a row, man. But the last one I kind of thought maybe was kind of too quick of a stoppage, but who knows, if it went on, he probably would have got hit a few more times and been out. But he's got he's got 5 wins by knockout and 2 by submission. Most of his wins have been by decision. He's well rounded. Both of these guys' last win was over what was that guy's name? Amari Akhmedov, who I don't believe is in the UFC anymore. I think he went over to the PFL. If Brad can keep it on the feet, I think he's the better striker, for sure. At this point anyway. Weidman in his prime would probably smoke Tavares. But and Tavares has pretty good takedown defense. I don't like the price at all. I think it's a pretty high price for a guy who's coming off, 2 knockout losses in a row. I do think Tavares is going to get the win here. I do kind of want to pick Weidman, but neither of these guys have looked good recently, but at least Tavares has been the more active fighter, and I'll take him to win by second round knockout. Maybe he gets back on track with this fight. Next up, we got Gerald Meerschaert taking on Andre Petroski. And Gerald is 35 years old, 6'1" with a 77.5-inch reach. He is 35-16 and 10-8 in the UFC. And he's a plus 237 underdog. He has 6 wins by knockout, 8 and 28 wins by submission. I mean, that's crazy. And obviously, like I said, his bread and butter is his jiu-jitsu, and he's very good on the ground. He's a very tricky fighter, man, and that's how he's gotten wins over guys that nobody thought he would beat. He stays very active. He fought just back in April, a few months ago. He's very experienced. He's fought a lot of tough competition. If you do make a mistake, he'll capitalize on it. And he often comes out and gets his ass kicked in the first round, then takes over and gets a submission. The striking has gotten better, man. He landed some good shots in the Muradov fight. He's going to have a 4.5-inch reach advantage in this fight. And it's going to be a very interesting matchup, because both of these guys are good on the ground. Maybe this fight will end up playing out on the feet. If Gerald wins, I think he'll probably get a sub in the third round after Andre gasses out. But, I do think that if this fight plays out on the feet, I think Petroski might have the power advantage, but I actually think between these two, because of the tape that I've watched, that Meerschaert might actually be more comfortable on the feet than Petroski, because Petroski does look a little uncomfortable and nervous on the feet. Andre Petroski is 32 years old, 6 foot tall with a 73-inch reach. He is 9-1 and 4-0 in the UFC, and he's a minus 277 favorite. He's got 4 wins by submission, 4 by knockout. Originally, I didn't think Andre was going to do much in the UFC, man, and he certainly has proved me wrong, man. He's a very good grappler, very fast and explosive, very powerful as well. Great guillotine choke, nice takedowns. Early on in his career in the UFC, you could really tell that he was, he was still figuring out the striking. He was throwing everything with a whole lot of power. Seems to have tightened it up just a little bit. Switches stances a lot, and when he does land, they're heavy shots. It just seems kind of tense on the feet, and uncomfortable. This could be one of those classic upsets, by Meerschaert, but I'm picking Petroski, man. I think he's going to win a decision. I really don't think these guys can submit each other, but I bet if Gerald does win, it would probably be a late third-round submission. And this is one of those classic fights where he could get that upset, but I'm going to pick Petroski, man. Next up, we got Marlon Vera taking on Pedro Munoz. And Vera is 30 years old, 5'8", with a 70.5-inch reach. He is 22-8-1. and 14-7 in the UFC. He's a minus 180 favorite. I think I got him at a little bit better price than that. Um, he has 8 wins by knockout, 10 wins by submission. You know, he's been in the UFC since 2014, and he's constantly improving. Um, you know, he has more fights in the UFC than Pedro Munoz. Um, a lot of good wins on his record. He's going to have a 5-inch reach advantage in this fight. He's coming off the Sandhagen fight where he just couldn't get anything going. Corey's footwork was just a little too much for him that night. You know, Vera is a very good striker. Doesn't throw the most volume, but what he lands is very damaging. We saw that in the Rob Font fight where, you know, Rob was outlanding Vera through the whole fight, but Vera would drop him in every round, catch him with a big shot, and just busted him up badly. Rob didn't even look like the same person by the end of that fight. And whether anybody believes it or not, man, I honestly think Vera could beat anybody on a good day. You know, I mean, I think he's that good. And he usually starts, you know, pretty slow. I mean, he's really good with his calf kicks, throws a lot of front kicks up the middle. He does a good job at defending strikes, man. He keeps his elbows in tight, blocks well, switches stances a lot, you know, good from both sides. He'll do a lot of work with his kicks in the first round, kind of beat up the legs and the body and slow his opponent down. And he usually does go out there and lose the first round. You know, it's something he does, and that's why I really prefer to bet him in 5-round fights. But he is really dangerous with his spin attacks, really good elbows from top position on the ground. You know, like I said, I usually like to bet him in 5-rounders, but this is going to be an exception. He's got dangerous knees. You know, he likes to use those jumping knees, very technical. And he's just all-around cool guy, man. If you listen to the Joe Rogan podcast that he was on, seems like a really cool guy. And he's taking on Pedro Munoz. He is 36 years old, 5'6", with a 65-inch reach. 20-7 and 10-7-2 in the UFC, and plus 155 underdog. And, you know, going and looking at Pedro's record, man, he's only lost to some of the best guys. You know, if you look at it, I think he's lost to Dominic Cruz, Jose Aldo. You know, went to a decision with them. Frankie Edgar went to a decision with him. Which that one's not such a good look because that was toward, you know, the end of Frankie's career. And he lost to Aljamain Sterling and John Dodson. All those guys are very, you know, very good fighters and, you know, guys that have been champions and stuff like that. So, you know, can't fault him for that, you know. And, you know, he uses lots of movement, very good boxing. He's never been finished. I have to acknowledge that. You know, I'm kind of mad at Pedro for beating my buddy up, Chris Gutierrez. I was really rooting for Chris in that fight. He showed how good of a grappler he was there. You know, he kind of controlled Chris on the ground and dropped him in the first round with a big shot. He has 4 wins by knockout, 9 by submission. He'll come out and have a good first round in this fight for sure. He does start very fast, and he has great jiu-jitsu. I don't think he's going to be able to get Vera down, though. Vera's takedown defense is pretty good. Pedro does a lot of good things, man. He's very fast with his punches. And honestly, I wouldn't hate anybody for taking a dog shot here at all. But I don't think Pedro has the footwork of Corey Sandhagen. I think Vera is going to catch him with one of those kicks like he was hitting Rob Font with. You know, Pedro's never been finished, but you know this may be a first, man. I'm going to take Vera to win by a late knockout, man, late TKO. Maybe he's going to catch him with some sort of kick in the third. Next up, we got Cody Garbrandt taking on Mario Batista. And so, a little background. So I made myself kind of look like an idiot, you know, the last time Cody fought because I was like, man, I'm loading up on Trevin Jones, you know. And I still stand by this because I'll talk. You know, you'll hear about it in a minute, but I still stand by. Still stand by it. But Cody is 32 years old, 5'8", with a 65.5-inch reach. He is 13-5 and 8-5 in the UFC, and he's a plus 260 underdog. And Cody's a former champ, man. He has tons of skills, you know, very powerful, a really fast, slick striker. He has 10 wins by knockout. He's never won a fight by submission, and he's never been submitted either. So I know all the skills are there. He's an amazing fighter with nice footwork, explosive punches. You know, he sets them up very well. He came into the UFC and had a hot streak all the way to the title, man. And since then, he's been finished 4 times by knockout. And that's what scares me about him. You know, I honestly think his chin is compromised at this point. He did squeeze out a win last time out, man. But, you know, his opponent, Trevin Jones, went out there and barely threw anything the whole fight. I think he had landed 3 strikes by the beginning of the third round. And Cody won the first 2 rounds, and with a very short amount of time left in that fight, Trevin Jones actually finally started trying to get him and hit him with a punch and rocked him and hurt him. And, he took him down, and Trevin decided to go to the ground instead of making him get up and trying to get a knockout. So, and Trevin has done that in a lot of his fights as well. He prefers to be a counterpuncher, and he lays back too much and doesn't do enough. And I'm sure he'll make his way back to the UFC. I'm sure he'll improve, and Cody can be a very tricky fighter as well. He's kind of hard to hit. So, Cody's a very good fighter. If Mario touches him, I think he'll knock him out for sure. Cody is always live for a knockout, man. He has the power. He's very slick. I'm not saying he looked horrible. I just think that if Mario touches him, Mario is 30 years old, 5'9" with a 69-inch reach. He is 12-2 and 6-2 in the UFC. He's a minus 300 favorite right now. I caught him at a little bit better price than that. He has 3 wins by knockout, 6 by submission. He looked amazing aside from getting caught by Trevin Jones, which is a bad loss. I know we just talked about Trevin Jones, but it happens. Sometimes people get caught, man. Ankalaev got caught by Paul Craig in the triangle. Jamal Hill did too, The only other fight, man, that Batista's lost was to Corey Sandhagen, and that was his debut. He's won 4 in a row now. Hasn't had any adversity at all in those 4 fights. He ran right through them like they were nothing. He's an amazing wrestler with really good jiu-jitsu. He's going to have a 3.5-inch reach advantage in this fight, which is going to help him out a lot. Really good single and double leg takedowns. If he gets you down, you can't give your back up, man, because when you're trying to get to your feet and you give your back up, he's very good at transition to the back. He gets it every time. He pushes a really tough pace on guys, very fast from the start, man, and his punches are really fast, goes to the body a lot with his hands, nasty elbows from ground and pound. And he's going to have the advantage here, in the wrestling and the grappling for sure. Maybe it could be close on the feet, but I think Mario's going to have the more power advantage in this fight. I'm taking Batista to win. I think he's going to win by decision. I think he drops Cody and jumps on the neck in round 1. He's been getting finishes in the round 1 of every fight, so I'm rolling with that. Next up, we already got the co-main event because there's no fights on this card. They should drop the price on this. I mean, I know it's a good card. There's some good fights, but paying, how much are they now? $80 for a pay-per-view, $90. I'd expect 15, 14 fights to be on there, man. 10 fights. That's kind of they need a discount on that. We got Weili Zhang taking on Amanda Lemos. Zhang is 34 years old, 5'4" with a 63-inch reach. She is 23-3 and 7-2 in the UFC, and she's a minus 300 favorite. She has 11 wins by knockout, 8 wins by submission. Majority of her wins are by finish. She has continued to improve and look better and better each time we've seen her. She's been constantly making improvements. Coming off 2 finishes in a row, man, and her boxing has looked amazing. Her wrestling is much improved. Takedowns are way better than they used to be, and she mixes it all together very well. She's got very heavy hands. She's a more I think she's the more well-rounded fighter here. Sorry, I can't talk. She has 5-round cardio for sure. She's been a lot of 5-rounders. Pushes a really hard pace. Her speed and precision, man, is something really special, man. She's gotten so much better, between the Rose fights and all that. So, I think Weili's going to wear on Lemos here with her pressure and her wrestling. And I think if she gets Lemos out of the second round or so, Lemos is a little bit less dangerous. And Lemos is 36 years old, 5'4" with a 65-inch reach. She is 13-2-1 and 7-2 in the UFC, and she's a plus 270 underdog. She has 8 wins by knockout and 3 by submission. She's very powerful. She's a finisher. But there's a couple key things, man, you got to think and consider. Whenever we've seen her getting taken to a split decision by Angela Hill, and I along with Dana White, thought that Hill won that fight, for sure. No doubt about it. And we've seen her submitted by Jessica Andrade really quickly, who hasn't looked good since that fight. And, Lemos' first fight in the UFC, she got finished by a girl who was 9-7 at the time. So she has looked great since, I'm not saying anything, but you got to look at these things. And I could tell she has improved her cardio quite a bit. We saw her get a finish in the 3rd round last time out. She has great Muay Thai, uses a lot of feints, counters very well. She's going to have a 2-inch reach advantage. Great calf kicks, power in both hands. I think Whaley will be the one throwing more volume here for sure. Lemos is always live for a knockout. She's very good. But I think I think Zhang's gonna probably use her grappling, get some takedowns in the beginning of this fight, keep Lemos down for a few rounds before she starts working her boxing on the feet. And I'm gonna be taking Zhang to get the win by submission round 3, or maybe 4. a late submission, either way. And now we got the main event: Aljamain Sterling versus Sean O'Malley. Sterling is 34 years old, 5'7" with a 71-inch reach. He's 23-3 and 15-3 in the UFC, and he's a minus 275 favorite. That's an amazing record, man. I forget sometimes how long he's been around now. And he's got 3 wins by knockout, 8 wins by submission. Really good wrestling and takedowns, very good at taking the back and backpacking guys for whole rounds. We got to see a little bit more in his last fight, an actual legit fight that was, not like the Dillashaw fight where he fought a guy with one arm and beat him, and there were people that scored that fight for Cejudo, but watching it back, I do agree that Sterling won that fight. He's got nice high kicks, uses a lot of side-to-side movement, nice front kicks up the middle, high-level jiu-jitsu. We did see Cejudo get some takedowns on Sterling, but Cejudo's a very high-level wrestler. I don't think he's going to have to worry about in this fight. Sean will not be going for takedowns, won't need to take him down. I expect Sterling to have to use his takedowns and do a lot of holding Sean down in this fight. Sean's never been submitted. We have seen Sterling slow down late in fights, usually when he's using a really heavy wrestling approach. So that's something to think about here, man. He's going to want to keep Sean O'Malley down because Sean O'Malley's clearly the better striker. So maybe Sean's chance is in the 4th or 5th round, And Sean is 28 years old, 5'11" with a 72-inch reach. He is 16-1, 8-1 in the UFC. He's a plus 215 underdog. And Sean's going to have a 1-inch reach advantage. He has 10 wins by knockout and 2 by submission. Very good kickboxer, with deceptively big power. He's definitely the way better striker here. And, his fights usually, he fights very long. He doesn't load up on his shots a whole lot, man. And you wouldn't think that he would be able to lay guys out with those shots, but he does. And I used to not think he was all that great, man, early on. But, I thought he was overrated or whatever. But he's definitely proved me wrong, and he's turned me into a big fan of his. And, his fighting style is very fun, man. He switches stances back and forth, very good from both sides. He's primarily a southpaw. Uses good push kicks, very good at leaning and moving in and out of the pocket. Uses lots of feints, with his legs and his shoulders. Uses his jab very well, man. He'll jab you and pull you into the second shot he throws. And he'll throw and he'll hit you with the jab, pops the jab out there. And then when he pulls it back, he'll step into range and throw the 1-2 down the middle. And he catches guys when they're not expecting it, what else? I'm sure he worked hard, on his takedown defense, but I'm not sure that that's going to hold up against Sterling. I really do want O'Malley to win this fight. He's the kind of fighter you want to be your champion. He's got the cool style. I am going to pick Sterling to win because, it's all about, I do most of my shows about betting, so that's why I make a lot of the choices that I make. And sometimes I pick a lot of dogs just because I feel like they're, a better value than other fighters. And I do think Sterling's wrestling is going to prevail, man, but if Sean wins, I think it'll be a late knockout, round 4 or 5. I'm going to pick Sterling to win by decision, man, but I'm going to do what I do often, man, and I'm going to have a little bit of money on Sean O'Malley at the plus money, just because I want to be able to say I had money on him, if he wins. And I'm not a big Sterling fan, man. I never have been. Just too much shady stuff around, him getting the title and stuff like that or whatever, but obviously he's proved that he's a good fighter and, worthy of being the champion, so whatever, but that's it for my picks, guys. Sorry there's only 10 fights on this card. And as far as my bets go, man, I was able to make some flyers so I could pull them up for you guys. Well, if it would go full screen, sorry. So as far as bets goes, man, I don't usually like betting fighters at this big of a price, but I do have a 3-unit play on Mario Batista at minus 285. I got a 2-unit play on Karine Silva at minus 155. I got Marlon Vera at minus 175. That's a 1-unit play, excuse me. And Then I got a two fight parlay, uh, two fight parlay with Batista and Natalia Silva, and that's a minus 125, and that's a 1.5 unit play. I usually don't put this much money on women's fights, guys, so this might turn around to bite me. It usually does, but I am very confident in both of the Silvas. And as far as parlays go, I got these here, man. Keep them up for a minute so you guys can get a good look at them. The top line is both the Silvas, Natalia Silva, Corrine Silva, Batista, Vera, and Rodriguez. That's plus 450. I put a little bit more on that one than I usually do. Normally I usually just go like 150. Usually about $50 on each of these. A little bit more on that one because I'm pretty confident in it at the plus 450. And then I made the same one and I add Zhang and Petrosky. That's plus 831, and that's just $100 on that. And then took that and then added Sterling and Tavares to it. That's plus 1612 at $50 on that. And then originally I had Neal on there as well, and that was a plus 4044. I'll be replacing Neal with Kurt Holobaugh to fill that in for you. And yeah, man, I really appreciate all you guys. Please like and subscribe, man. And what else? What else? I guess that's it, man. Guess I don't got nothing else for you, man. I really appreciate you guys. Thank you for your time and thank you for caring, about what I have to say. Yeah, man. Y'all have a good one, man. I appreciate y'all.